Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to Well Worded. I'm your host, the advocate of words. I'm excited about today's show. This is our first official um, official broadcast. Last month, I got to work with True, Gabriel Don, and Rich Villar. They came on a test broadcast with me. And today I'm joined by three individuals who are writers themselves, who are artists themselves. But I called them on today because what I wanted to do was I wanted to speak about things that go on behind the scenes, people who are not just spending time on their own art, but are spending time on creating things for other artists to enjoy. So first off, and I'm going to go about unmuting them and showing you them. First off, we have representing CAPICU culture, who does a lot of things. They do their open mic, they host their workshops. Represent Brooklyn. Also, they just did a toy drive. I believe they just had a very successful toy drive, but I'm going to let him speak up more on it as I'm trying to unmute him right now. Papo, can you hear us right now? And we can't hear Papo. That's on my end. Let me make sure I unmute him. You're looking good, Papo, but we can't hear you. I think, but that's on my end. Oh, no. Why isn't this it's our first show having problems already. I probably shouldn't have muted them in the beginning. And I also have other things going off. I don't want that. Papo, I can't unmute you. What's going on here now? Mute. Oh, it says you're unmuted. Can you hear us, Papo? Talk. No, we can't hear you. Can't hear you. All right, Juliet, can you hear us? JP, can we hear you? Everyone is muted. Oh, there's first time problems for live stream. Oh, wait, we got JP. We got JP.
Hi.
So, all right, so we're going to start with JP Howard. I'm going to come back to you, Papo. For some reason, I can't hear you right now, but I'm going to get back to you. So JP, speak a little bit about yourself. Let the audience know who you are and what you do.
Sure. I'm JP Howard, and I curate Women Writers in Bloom Poetry Salon, which is a literary salon. I host monthly salons, mainly throughout New York, but this year we expanded, and last year we expanded, and we did some in California, one in California and one in Seattle. But basically the goal is to nurture women, primarily women, men come as well, and to provide monthly workshops. And we also have an open mic as well every month. So it's a chance to come together and have this really supportive environment so that we can write and also share our work.
So you do stuff online and in person as well, correct?
Most of our things are in person, our actual workshops or readings. Online is my Women Writers in Bloom Facebook page, where I do share a lot of information, but most of my information is actual live workshops.
So you've been traveling. So you said you went out to Seattle. So you've gone out. And where else was it? You said Seattle and.
And when I was at Vona this past June, and so I actually had a salon there, a multi-genre salon, at Vona, which is in Berkeley, University of California at Berkeley. That was.
And quickly explain to people what Vona is.
Sure. It is a workshop for writers of color, and it's multi-genre. So there's all sorts of genres that are there. And so the workshop that we did there was, bringing together writers of multicultural, writers of color, to come in and basically write. Did a lot of writing, and we also had a wonderful open mic, which is always part of our monthly salons, is the open mic so folks can bring their own work.
So why did you begin? Why did you begin this venture?
I began mostly a little bit selfish because I really sort of missed having a writing community every month. I got my MFA I guess it's been about 5 years now. 5 years ago, I formed the salon. It'll be almost 4 years this year. And so once I had graduated from the program, I missed having a monthly workshop. And really, I just wanted to have this kind of community of, like I said, it's geared naturally, normally first to women, but everyone is welcome to come. So I just really wanted to have that community, to kind of have this supportive environment, to bring in new writers, because that's something that happens every month. I have a different feature each month. So it's also kind of introducing folks to new people. So I get a lot out of it as well.
So are those the sirens in the background near you?
They are.
Okay, all right. I didn't know if we have Papo's mic working. Yeah, Papo, can you hear us? I mean, can you speak? All right, we can't hear you. Papo, can do me a favor, can you log out of it and then log back in? I think it may work. It may be a problem on my end because I'm trying to unmute Charlie as well. So Charlie, can you do the same thing? Log out and then log back in because it's not allowing me to unmute you. Sorry to everyone who's listening in. First time doing this, we're messing up a little, so I apologize. So we're gonna go back to JP real quick while the
Okay.
fellas log out and log back in. Why the focus on women?
Why the focus on women?
Yeah,
Sure.
I know that you said that you're open to everyone and
Yeah, so
everyone's
we do have,
invited.
right, we do have a few male members who do come. I do think I just initially wanted to create this sort of safe space, safe sort of haven for women to come together, very nurturing. And so that generally, initially, my thoughts was to have it for women. It started out as something very small. It's grown since, but initially it was really very a small group, a small intimate group. It does happen in people's homes as well. So that was sort of part of the focus as well, just to be able to kind of have that environment.
Awesome, awesome. So we're gonna get back to you, Papo. Can you hear us now? Can we hear you? Go ahead, speak. No, we can't hear you.
Uh-uh.
But
Oh, I heard
it
him.
says you're in. Yeah, speak again, Papo. No, we can't hear you. What about you, Charlie? Can we hear you,
I
Charlie?
I can hear you.
Okay, awesome. We can hear you, Charlie. All right, I'm gonna try to work on my end on Papo. But first, let me introduce Charlie Vasquez, director of the Bronx Writers Center, also a co-founder of it's called Editorial Trance. Am I saying that right?
Yeah, it's Editorial Trance and Editorial Trance. You
Okay,
can
so
say it the same in English. It's spelled the same in English and Spanish.
yeah, and it's bilingual, correct?
Yep.
Okay, so
Yep.
tell us a little bit about that. Well, tell us a little bit about who you are and what that is.
Well, currently I've got Editorial Trance happening alongside the Bronx Writers Center, where I'm beaming in from. And actually, I've been so busy here and with my own writing that Marlena Fitzpatrick, the co-creator, the CEO of Editorial Trance, is actually running that project right now, and I'll be joining her in the future when things lighten up. But Editorial Trance basically is, we created it. It's a digital publishing platform for Latino literature. So if people are self-publishing and they want their books available as ebooks, we format them and produce them and market them, etc. But strictly on the digital domain. We don't produce any paper books at this moment because it's so much work. So before then, right after we started that, I was offered the job here at the Bronx Writers Center, which is the literary division of the Bronx Council on the Arts, where ironically I was born and raised. So it's kind of like the biggest coming home gift for someone like me. But it gives me the opportunity to use my different skills and experiences under one roof. That being, having worked as a freelance editor for fiction anthologies primarily, using social media to get some more awareness of the Bronx Council on the Arts and the Bronx Writers Center out there. Event organizing, which I did for a while when I had a reading series in the East Village for 3 years.
And
Um,
what was the
uh-huh.
name of the reading series?
It began as Panic, and then when it was born as Panic and died as Hispanic Panic. Um, yeah, it was a wacky time, but it was a lot of work, and other things took priority, so I had to put that on hold. Also, I work with a Puerto Rican literary festival called El Festival de la Palabra, which is based in San Juan. So when they come in October, I help coordinate stuff on this end. And that gives me access to a lot of Latin American writers and poets and so forth. And every other year or so, I actually go to the San Juan conference. So the last, since I've been back in New York since 2006, it's been like this mushrooming effect alongside my own writing. But it's to me, it doesn't feel like work. It's what I love to do. I love working with people. I love helping people, and I learn from them just as much as I try to share the knowledge I have.
Awesome, awesome. We're definitely gonna get more into that. Boppo, we heard him before, man. We heard him before we started the broadcast. Go ahead, speak. Can we hear you now? Nah, we can't hear you. Even with him yelling. Even with him yelling. All right. So if you can't put up, are you wearing headphones right now? Try taking the headphone out. See if it's that.
Oh,
Say it again.
Something.
Tess, can you hear
Yup,
me?
yup. We can hear
yes,
you now.
yes, I
All
hear
right.
you.
All
Yay.
right.
We'll have to work with it because we totally want you on on the show
Yeah.
this week. So so Boppo is I know you're a host and you're a dean, but am I correct in saying you're also co-founder of CAPICU Culture?
That is correct. Co-founder
Okay.
of Capital Culture, along with George Urban Hiboto Torres. We've been doing it for this particular entity. We've been doing for the last 8 years. Well, going on 8 in March, right? But I've been
Wow.
doing in some way, shape, or form in the creative arts probably since around 12 years old, which I'm pretty sure is the case of everybody on the panel. You know, we start writing when
Right,
you're a kid, right?
right.
Um, I should do everything. I used to do comic books. I was an MC. I was doing hip hop, just like you, Advocate. I see you. I remember hiphoppoetry.com.
Um,
Spitting
yeah,
bars,
I
you
remember
know.
when you were mayor of Mi Gente. You inspired me with your Mi Gente page. Yeah, so explain what Kapiku culture is and touch a little bit on LaSopa. And I see in the background you actually have both the signs, the Kapiku culture showcase and LaSopa. So they're all under one umbrella, but explain each of them to those who are looking on.
So what Capicu culture was basically I was a kid from Brooklyn, right? So, and I used to write poetry as a solitary. It was something I did for myself. I never really shared it with the family. I never shared it with my friends. Poetry in the way that I saw it, I only saw like girls writing poetry to boys and stuff like that. It wasn't for real. Like it wasn't like I got a couple of letters. You know, you get the little letters. I like you, hearts are blue, whatever, right? So when I'm in the seventh grade, I come into the writings of Edgar Allan Poe, and I was going through some stuff in my life. You know, I don't know if you guys know, but I had lost both my parents, and right at 12, I was in between between my father passing and my mother passing. So Edgar Allan Poe's work, if you're familiar with it, it's very dark work. You know, it's work that deals with deeper. There you go, Charlie, with deeper emotions. You know, and so I started writing poetry to emulate Poe because I felt like Poe I could connect with that work. So fast forward that some years later, I run into Miguel Agarin's book Love is Hard Work down in Loisaida, right? And that book I think the way that he spoke about his friends and his death, things like that, he wrote about it very differently than Poe would have wrote about it. Poe wrote in very fantastical terms, right? Miguel wrote in terms that were very kind of right here in your face. You know, we're talking about the funeraria down the block. You know, we're talking about his friend Miguelito. We're talking about like real concrete terms. So finding that out, I found out that poetry was not just a solitary discipline. It could be used as a community tool. So, in looking further into it, I started doing the readings into the New Eurekan poets, into the Black Arts movement, Amiri Baraka, and to the beat poets as well, Allen Ginsberg and all of this kind of stuff. And I said, you know what? I want to create something that's kind of a mix of all of these things. Cause I'm New Eurekan, but I'm from a black neighborhood, right? So, the black arts experience spoke to me as well. Then, seeing Ginsberg, later on Bukowski and all of this kind of stuff, I related to that stuff as well. So I was taught that the divisions that we were taught that we look at now like there were three movements.
Mm.
There's actually evidence that they actually sprang from one movement, out of the village and the Lower East Side. The people that were writing for the margins. So Kapiku was our way of providing a platform for poets of color and poets on the margins to have a place to speak.
And quickly with LaSopa. Now, explain. I know what LaSopa is, but I'm gonna allow you to explain it, and you can actually give a little more detail what that is.
Absolutely. School of Poetic Arts, right? LaSopa. I thought I was clever as hell. SOPA, School of Poetic Arts. I was like, damn, este tipo chacho, right? But the name was just everything. But really, what it was is with CAPICU, we created a platform. With SOPA, what we wanted to do was what we found was that people were coming to these open mics, and even though the open mics had been going already by that point for 7 years, people's work, the work itself wasn't elevating. It wasn't coming to another plateau. So we thought to ourselves, let's find a way to empower the writers, empower the poets, and give them skills if they're interested to develop their work out. And within developing that work, also give them the backdrop of the writers that came before them, of the writers all the way down to Walt Whitman, coming out from the writers after post World War II, all the way to current. So we give them a backdrop of what the scene is like right here in New York City, but we don't tell you how to write. We're just giving you the devices, and we're giving you the information, and we're helping to guide you and shape you. This is something that a lot of the workshops before us have done. Our model is largely based on, my co-dean, Johnny Rose, who brought us to Boricua College. If it wasn't for her, we wouldn't be there. But she came out of teaching from the Exentos model, the Exentos Writers Workshops in the Bronx. And then Keith Roach came out of, the New Eureka Poets Cafe doing a slam team, but he was also part of the original days of the Bronx Writers Center. Charlie, that's you, my man. But
a lot of
Keith was
people.
there. Keith was there, so we brought all of this stuff together, and we created kind of what we wanted to do was something like a BFA program, but that anybody could get into. You didn't need a certain academic credential or anything like that. Just
hold that, because I actually have a specific question about that. So don't let go of that thought. But I don't want to jump ahead, because I have a question about that. I'm going to ask you later. Don't get ahead. So all right. So let's begin. And my mother raised me right, so I'm going to be a gentleman. We're going to start with a lady, with J.P. Howard. Now, you spoke about that you've done these salons in different places. So first thing I want to get into and for us to discuss is production. What goes into producing a show? So if people who are listening that are interested in starting to produce their own workshops, their own shows, just their own live events, I'd like you to speak about a little bit about the process that you've gone through, how you do it. Also the fact that you've put on shows in other states and in other cities. It's one thing to say, hey, I'm from New York City, I'm going to throw a show in New York City. It's another to be like, I'm from New York City, I'm going out to Seattle, I'm going to put on this show. So if you can, please speak a little bit about your process on how you produce live events, and give us some of the secrets. Teach us,
about secrets, but I would say definitely being really organized is part of it. That definitely helps. Definitely working with community, collaborating. I think for me that's been like the biggest part, the biggest thing that's really grown over the last almost 4 years is really being able to reach out, not being scared to ask folks. I mean, with the Seattle salon and with the California salon, I had no idea folks were going to say, yes, I'm interested in having a salon, but I asked. So that's the one thing I would say, folks who want to hold events, whether it's here in New York, whether it's anywhere around the country, you got to sort of kind of have that confidence and at least ask. The worst they can do is say no. The best they can do is say yeah, and then you kind of go with it. But for me, it definitely is kind of working with community, working with organizations. I'm part of a lot of different organizations. I'm a Cave Canem fellow, Lambda fellow, now Bona alum. So it's also kind of reaching out to all the folks that we meet when we work together in community and asking them if they're willing to feature, if they're willing to, give me a space, things like that. So that's really kind of been a big part of it for me. I'd say the biggest thing has just really been kind of collaborating and working together with other folks, definitely not being scared to, to ask whether somebody's willing to, host me or give me a suggestion about a location, things of that sort.
So how have you gone about getting people to attend? You know, you've spoken about getting other organizations to get on and to help you with, but how have you gotten people to attend? I mean, there's a lot of people think, oh, it's poetry. There's gonna be, oh, this is writing. Oh,
Right.
self help. I
Right.
don't, like. So how do you get
Right.
them excited about saying, no, this is exciting? You know.
Right, right. Let's see. Basically, I mean, like I said, it started really small. Now every month I have a wait list. So I definitely think there's been a lot of sort of like, excitement about it when folks start to see that there's this community, this building, a lot of community building, a lot of really, that's what it feels like, especially the last few years, that they're like a, sort of a core group of people who are always interested in coming. But then the beautiful part is there's always new people. So a lot of word of mouth. It's definitely a lot of hard work. I mean, it's basically me, and plus folks who, help me out in the community, but I'm the one who's doing it. So a lot of, sort of internet, a lot of, reaching out via Twitter, via Facebook, via email blasts, things like that. So it's definitely, it's not like you just got to sit back. That's the one thing I could say I learned. You can't just sit back and assume folks are going to come to you.
Yep.
You got to put yourself out there. You got to put your, market yourself, market your organization. And that's definitely sort of a skill that I've learned over time.
All right, so I know I don't want all you guys to give away all your goodies. I understand that, but give me one maybe specific way that you've seen has worked for you to market what you're doing.
For me, I would say, how folks do like, the Facebook, invites, things like that. You can't always sort of kind of rely on whatever the RSVPs are. So for me, I follow up.
Yeah.
I do a lot of follow up to make sure the folks are really going to attend. And that sort of helps me, I think, get a sort of a greater percentage of folks who really do show up.
Yes,
So that's what works for me.
Follow through. Later on,
Right,
we're going to start
follow through.
talking about business ethics and things that artists need to do, and I think follow through is going to be
Yes, it's a
one
big one.
of the main ones. So now, what are you looking to do next with this? Is there an area in terms of marketing, or is there a demographic you feel you haven't reached yet that we can see you starting to reach out to in 2015, or is your trajectory sort of just set already and it's just a matter of time before you continue to get to your destination?
I would just say sort of continued growth. I'd love to be able to, perhaps have us, do another salon out of state, because generally, like I said, the focus is on New York, either in Brooklyn or Manhattan or another borough. So definitely I'd love to be able to kind of expand beyond to another state, and to collaborate more with folks, to collaborate more with other organizations. Like Wendy and Gulu, we're going to be, collaborating together, I know, on events. I've collaborated with New York City Latina Writers Organization with Alicia Anabel Santos, who runs that. So I think more collaboration is something that I see happening in 2015.
Awesome. Community. I love it. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And let me jump over now to Mr. Charlie Vasquez. Charlie, in terms of putting together not just live events and shows, which you can talk about, but I know that you've been involved with the Bronx Council on the Arts. You've been involved in putting together workshops. You've getting artists together, people into the workshops. I know that you've delved into publishing. Weren't you just in New York? You were in the New York newspaper. I'm gonna let you speak about it for something you had just done. So why don't you share with us a little bit your process in terms of mobilizing people, getting together for the sake of literature, in terms of the artist and audience as well?
Okay. Well, it's been a little bit of an evolution because first I'm pretty fearless. I'm not afraid to experiment, and I've wound up on my ass a lot as a result of that. But that's how I learn. I'm a blue collar scholar. When I got back to New York in 2006, I didn't know anybody. And the reason I came back wasn't just to come home to my family, but I had been writing I was living in Portland, Oregon. That's a whole other conversation, but we're gonna cut that out for now.
Yeah, Oregon.
That's a whole other lifetime. But that's a whole other book. But I didn't know anyone, but I kept reading, in the days of like Alta Vista and pre-Google search engines. I would type things in like LGBT Latino writers, LGBT Puerto Rican writers, and all these names started popping up, you know, and they were all in New York. Larry LaFountain, Emmanuel Xavier, Charles Rice Gonzalez, and I'm like, I have to meet these people because, you know, I didn't start writing in a community. I started writing in these really dark rooms by myself, right? And I started as a fiction writer. Unlike everyone else, even though I have written poetry and published it, I don't consider myself a poet first. I consider myself a fiction writer who does on occasion write poetry and publishes it. So I was coming from a slightly different discipline. And anyway, I didn't know anyone. I met Emmanuel Xavier through a mutual friend, a writer in Los Angeles, who was doing a reading at the LGBT Center. And it was through Manny that I started learning about these different reading series, and he was pointing me to books, and I went to the New York Poets Cafe for the first time and started going to, you know, what was sort of drying up in the East Village. It was gentrifying so fast that I wasn't finding stuff that was turning me on, and I don't mean that sexually. I just mean like energy-wise. Energy-wise, it's like, you know, when someone gets on stage, even if they're reading like a horror story, you know, they can bring a room to a standstill. And I wasn't finding anything theatrical, like in any way. And I'm pretty open to a lot of styles and stuff like that. So I decided to start my own reading series. And at the first one, we had maybe 10 people at a little dive bar called Nowhere in the East Village. Papa wound up coming toward the end when it picked up. You saw the good stuff.
I did.
But that was a lot of fun. But then as it started growing, I started curating the reading series not for one particular community. Even though it was technically at a gay bar, I would get like Penny Arcade or Carmelita Tropicana. There was just a number of different people, and what I would do is I would assign the readings a theme, and then all of these writers and poets and performers from different backgrounds and generations and disciplines and languages would perform something relating to that theme. So sometimes it was poetry, sometimes it was spoken word, sometimes they would read stage monologues, etc. Then I canned that. I started writing more and publishing more. And then I got hired to do coordinating for the Palabra Festival based in San Juan. So that opened up a whole other Pandora's box. And it required me to like improve my Spanish really fast. So I had to do my own little self-designed crash course on that, which has really paid off because then all of a sudden I was in a position where I was doing the same thing but with international writers. And that was very difficult, but it was kind of a schooling in its own way. Anyway, so all of that culminates and concludes for now at the Bronx Writers Center, where I sort of take things that I've learned from all those experiences, from publishing, from event organizing, from experimenting, just conceiving things. You know, it's like I need an idea for this. You know, come up with something and do whatever you can to make it work. So I have a very non-traditional, do-it-yourself, DIY punk, you know, street approach, because that's how I've learned everything, and I've applied that from street art to, you know, international fine letters. I've used the same approach. So if that makes sense.
I like what you had mentioned earlier about learning from your mistakes. I think that's so important. I've been saying that to a lot of people. And Wendy Angulo was mentioned earlier. She's my manager, and one of the things I've always told her is like, I'm not afraid of making a mistake, but I'm going to be real mad if we make the same mistake twice.
Yes.
That's what I'll be upset with you or be upset with myself, the world, whatever. Let's not make the same mistake twice. So within all of that, the do-it-yourself background and all the experience, what is one piece of advice you can give to someone who's looking to put together any kind of a live event, but in terms of what can they do to mobilize people, an audience, to come and to attend?
What I would suggest a few things, but the first thing that comes to mind, if I had to give myself advice now, to who I was in 2006 when I was beginning this journey, is to, you know, try to find something that's not happening that people might like. You know, if everyone's kind of working in a similar genre and you're just going to do your version of that, it's going to be harder. You may get people faster if you're doing something that's already been tested and proven as valuable. If you're willing to start some, if you're willing to risk not getting as many people at first, but over the course of time to build something original, you might be more satisfied. It also depends, like, what is your motivation? My motivation for starting my first reading series was to meet other writers. I wanted to meet other people who were doing similar things. It was not only a way for me um, to curate an event that I would find entertaining, but to also meet other people for the first time. Where'd you go?
Oh, I'm
Hello?
right here. I'm right here. You can hear us, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, awesome. No,
This is the
I didn't
ad.
go in. Excuse me?
Like the flyer just popped up.
Oh yeah, yeah, and that's because I'm about to go to Papo, but real quick, we're
Okay.
actually already at the halfway mark, so I wanted to bring up the flyer for anyone who came in to watching the broadcast late. Right now, I'm speaking with Charlie Vasquez, J.P. Howard, and Papo Swiggity. Currently, we're discussing about producing your own live events, how to try to mobilize people to come in and attend your events. So I want to switch it over to Papo right now, and so I want to ask Papo about what he was starting to get into before. Is we know that you do the cultural open mic, the showcase, but I'd like to talk about LaSopa in terms of now workshops, because a lot of people are interested in doing workshops, and I'm more and more meet more people who are interested in doing workshops. So my question to you, Papo, is who are these workshops for? Meaning, can I bring a 12, 13-year-old to your workshop? Is that something you think would be for them? Or what if I'm a 65-year-old tenured professor at Harvard? Is there any reason for me to come to the workshop? So who is the demographic? Who is La Sopa geared towards? And what if I'm not Latino? Is La Sopa still for me? So go ahead, Papo.
No, wonderful questions. Wonderful questions. Now, the first thing is that we don't have children's workshops yet. We're working on it. Johnny had an idea of doing Las Sopitas. So he's
Aw.
been doing,
Nice.
so age appropriate, poetry workshops, and so we're trying to develop that now. But what our original intention for La Sopa was to kind of capture the urban writer that's out here in New York City right now that kind of wants to build their skill and also build their business acumen, because that is something that not just writers but a lot of different kind of artists lack is how to build the business acumen end of it as well, and also to 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 kind of see how the different arts support each other. How is it that, for example, we had Lemon Anderson had La Sopa come down to the Metropolitan Museum of Art and for a workshop specifically on how poetry and visual art inform each other. Okay, so this is the kind of education that we want to give at a workshop like La Sopa, and this is really again, it's open to community. For open to community for us right now means 17 and up until we develop the more age appropriate workshops. But I mean, this being in mind, I'm right there with you, Charlie, man. I educated myself for the most part. It was me in a room with a lot of books and a lot of time on my hands. I ain't had no friends. You know what I'm saying? So so the books.
We're your friend now, Papo. You got tons of friends.
I still don't have friends.
No, but I'm saying, it empowered me though. It gave me a lot of time to like really sit there and look at what was going on in the community.
Papo?
Talk and crack around
Wait,
crazy.
you have to repeat that. We had lost you.
Yeah.
Okay.
The last thing we heard you say was it gave me time to get into the community, and then it went mute.
Okay, so it gave me time to get into the community because I was coming from trying to understand what was happening where I was growing up, where we're talking about David Dinkins era, New York City, crack, AIDS running rampant, high crime, murder rate, and throughout all of that, I found a lot of people that had a lot to say and didn't know how to say it, how to express it, because you're dealing with the day to day of how to stay alive and how to eat. So I think we're a little beyond that now in terms of um, the generations that come after tend to do a little better. So we are the generation that came after. We're doing a little bit better. We have our own problems, but we're here to develop and talk about what these problems are and what we can do as a community. And with stuff like this, the internet, stuff like what you're doing here, we're well worded. We're well on our way of getting those messages out.
Yes, I like something that you touched about in terms of the generation and moving forward. I don't know if this was something that me and you had said face to face or something that had been said through social media concerning things that we've done. Is that that us specifically from the New Yorican culture and community, that we were fortunate to inherit a legacy, and now we're fortunate to add to the legacy. So I totally understand you on the generational stuff. So I want to move on to the next thing I want to talk to before we get to business ethics is some workshop stuff specifically and some publishing stuff. I don't want to go too much into it because I want to save time for us to speak about business ethics, but I'd like to pick up with Charlie first in terms of publishing, because Charlie just helped publish. I know Charlie's been publishing for a while. He's had his own work published, but he also published, you called an anthology, the Bronx Memoirs.
The Bronx Memoir Project, yeah.
So now, for those who are listening in that are interested in publishing, can you give us, I guess, a little bit of advice, the things that we should be looking for or having prepared before we look to go get published?
Sure. Well, I'll begin that by saying that there's never been an easier time to get published. Okay, that doesn't mean that you're going to get published in the best way possible. But you need, like with anything, if you were going to go buy a car, it's an investment. Publishing is an investment. I think a lot of people have this very starry-eyed notion that they romanticize it like in a movie. Like you get published and everyone's going to know who you are and you're going to make all this money, and it's if you're doing it for the money and for prestige and to be popular. There's better things you can do to get those things. If you want to get published, it's because you have this burning desire to share a piece of yourself with the world, and you need to be prepared to be criticized for that. And I don't mean you criticize in negative and positive ways. What I would ask myself if I were younger is, like, first of all, why do I want to publish? Do I already have something in mind? Do I have enough work to publish? Has the work been cultivated? You get one shot. Once you get published and it's out there. And I know that on platforms like CreateSpace, you can continually edit a manuscript and keep uploading it and perfect it and so forth. So, regardless of whether you're working with spoken word poetry or free verse poetry or memoir or fiction, whatever the case may be, you need to cultivate your work first. It's like you need to get that writing up to the standards of something that's already been professionally published, whether it's in your genre or not. If you have a bunch of essays you're considering publishing and you have a theme and a concept and all that, go find a collection of essays. Go find a book by Edward Said or Gore Vidal or whoever, someone who's published essays in a very excellent way, and try to get your work in your own style and voice up to that quality. It's not about mimicking someone else's voice. It's about mimicking the quality of their work. So just improve, perfect. When approaching an editor, okay, I've been working as a freelance editor now for 7 or 8 years, something like that. We don't have time to read a 200-page manuscript, okay? And I know that there's editors out there who do it full-time that are even busier than I am. So you wouldn't believe how many times people say, oh, I just wrote a memoir, or I have a novella or a novel or a trilogy. I want you to look at it and tell me what you think. I don't have time for that. You know, I don't
Yeah.
have time for that. I know if I don't have time for that, other editors don't have time for that. You need to learn what a pitch is. You need to learn what an inquiry is. It's when you reach out to an editor or agent and you introduce yourself. You have researched their style, so you already know that they're looking for work that you produce, and you're going to send them what's called like an inquiry. And at that point, you say, if they're interested in looking at your work, they may say, okay, send me the first 10 pages of chapter 1, or send me whatever. And at that point, they'll start looking at it. Don't email your manuscript. You know, learn how to write an email first of all, because when someone opens your email and you're trying to get them, you're asking them to publish you, and you can't even type an email with proper grammar, you're going to blow it. If you're going to self-publish, I'm fine with self-publishing. I've been published traditionally, and I've self-published, and I think both of them are fine. I don't care what anybody says. Get an editor. You know, you need to get someone to look at your work and help you get it to the best possible quality that it can be. So, you know, get on Twitter, start following agents, start following editors, start following all the publishing houses, independent, the major houses, otherwise. Just get information. Learn what people in the publishing industry do so that you understand the different steps involved in publishing a book. You know, between the time that you email that manuscript in and the book hits the shelf, it's gone through a lot of hands, and you need to know where your place in that process is. It's like an assembly line, the way cars used to be built. You know, each person has a specific job for that car to become a car from a drawing. You know, so
Yes.
educate yourself. Just educate yourself.
I'm definitely going to have you, because I definitely want to do another live stream where we focus more on publishing. So we're going to bring you back on that, or I hope that we can. But I hope, I already know, I feel like I learned a little bit in terms of, because I've been self-published, but now I want to move it into a different direction, start looking at agents and publishing houses and things like that. So I thank you for that info. Real quick, we have a limited amount of time, so everyone who's watching the live stream, or if you're watching the recorded version later on, if you take a look in the description under the video, you're going to see links to everyone who's involved on this webcast right now. Reach out to them, follow them. If you have follow-up questions, reach out to them. They host they have their own events they're involved with, literary festivals, workshops, shows. Go attend these things, and then you can chew their ear off in person. So I appreciate all of them. We still have some time, but I really appreciate them giving us their time and these little tidbits. Now I want to move on to JP, who also does the blogging. So briefly, I want to speak to you about the blogging. What place does blogging have in poetry? Because before the digital era, it was so much about publishing your own books or getting into magazines and that sort. And now, because of blogging, the digital era is something that Charlie kind of mentioned. Anyone could put their work up. Anyone can get seen. I've heard people feel they were upset with the blogosphere, because now anyone could be a journalist and they can say whatever they want, and you know, the amateurs are hurting the professionals. I've heard so many different things on both ends. So if you can briefly speak to us about, where do you think the blogosphere lies within the poetry community and its importance, or if there isn't an importance?
Right. Well, it's very personal. I mean, sort of, you have to also consider what some of the things that Charlie said as well. You have to think about where you're putting your work. But I think for a lot of folks, that does work, putting poetry out on a blog, or having an easier and automatic, audience. But of course, a lot of people have to take into consideration that's considered previously published work. So those are things to think about when you think about later on about publishing. So I think people just really have to kind of weigh the pros and cons. But it's definitely a sort of a great way to access a larger audience, much easier than it might be if you're looking to get your first book published. But maybe you have a piece that you want to share. You can share it on a blog, and then that blog gets picked up and gets shared with even more people. So, but it is very personal. I mean, that's something we talk about a lot in our salons, about forums that people are selecting where they're going to publish their things. Facebook is another one. There are people who publish a lot of their poetry on Facebook. But I always tell them to be cautious if you're looking to submit something for a manuscript, and they will consider that previously published.
Yep.
Right. I see, Charlie, exactly. A lot of people don't realize that. So those are things that sort of come up a lot of times in our workshop when people are talking about, I want to publish this, but I already put it on my blog, I already put it on Facebook. You know, those are things that you really have to kind of be aware of.
So now companies look at that and they consider that already being
Previously
published.
A lot of places, yes, will say that's previously published, whether it's on a blog, whether it's on Facebook, things like that. That's I see Charlie shaking his head, so I think he agrees.
Oh, that's something new I
Yeah.
heard. You know, especially of late, where here a lot of people are copying and pasting and putting on their
Right.
Facebook. Everything I put on here is mine. It's not the right of Facebook's. And
Right.
you know, I'm sitting here laughing at them, like, you know, you guys, that's not really legal. It's not really going to help. But now I'm kind of listening to you, like, wait, maybe I'm the one who is in the wrong. I need to be careful with that. So
Right. Well, I mean, it's up to you. I mean, it's a personal choice. I think there's lots of folks who do it, and that's absolutely fine. They just have to realize that if they're trying to submit it later on, it may well be considered previously published work. So it's just something folks have to be, you know, kind of aware of.
So knowing what you know now, what advice would you give to a poet in terms of what you believe they should put on a blog, or what you feel may be safe for them to put on a blog? So let's take a theoretical person who's a writer. They have an interest in publishing. They're not sure if they're ever going to publish a book or not. Like, they're heading down that road.
Right.
What are the things that what kind of advice would you give to them on top of what you had just said? What kind of things would you encourage them to say, this is what you should do with your blog, or what's safe for a poet to put on their blog?
Right. I mean, I would just tell them to think about to look ahead. If it's a piece that they don't think is going to be part of a manuscript, just something that they want to share just to get their work out there, feel free to do it. If it's something that they really want to hold on to tightly and they feel like it's really part of a manuscript or something that they want to get published in a magazine that has those restrictions, then you might want to think, twice before you do it.
So what if I put a poem up on Facebook today, and then 2 weeks later I edit it, right?
Right.
And then a month later I send it to a publishing company.
Right.
Would they still consider that being published even though I edited the poem?
I think you have to ask them. Those are all kind of things I would tell the poet. You've got to, kind of be forthright about it. Whatever writer, whatever genre you're writing in, right? Because it's something that could come back and, backfire if they think, oh, it was just a small edit, right?
Yeah. So is social media the new poor man's copyright?
That's a good question. I know, right?
Right? We got to look that up.
No, we got to look that up, right? We all have to. What?
Go ahead, Charlie. You say you can tell us?
When you create something, it is technically already copyrighted, okay?
Right.
Whether you indicate it or not with the little C symbol, registering it with the Library of Congress is what people often confuse, making that official. That's when you register it with the Library of Congress and you pay and they have a copy of it there, then you can use that in court. But the copyright technically exists the moment that you create something, although it's not registered.
Okay.
Okay. So are you saying that Facebook could possibly be used in the court of law, or no?
I don't know. I don't know.
So everyone who's watching this, you need to go look that up on your own. That seems
but
like a good
it is considered published. It's considered published.
Published, right. It's considered published.
Yep.
Right. Previously published, basically.
If someone else can read it, it's published.
Right.
Okay. Awesome. All right, Boppo, I want to get to you now, and I want to ask you because you host the open mics, and you're part of deciding what features you're going to bring to an open mic. So a lot of artists who may be watching this, they have an interest of not only getting published and being part of workshops, but they want a feature. They want the spotlight. They got a story, and the world has to hear it. So when you look to feature an artist, what are some of the traits that you are looking for? So if someone who's watching this right now is like, man, I want to be featured at CAPICU, other than them coming to you and hounding your inbox or constantly tugging at your shirt like, put me on, what are the things that you look for in an artist when you look to have them be a spotlight or a feature?
Absolutely. Well, the number one thing, of course, I'm going to look at is your talent. Like, does this person you know, have a draw. Do they know what they're doing on stage? Do they know what they're doing on the page? And do they know how to get that out? A pet peeve of mine that I have, one of them, one of many, but one is that some poets feel that they're very strong on paper, and then you book them, and then when they get to the stage, they have a dry presentation. And when you have a dry presentation, what can happen, especially if you have a rowdy crowd like a CAPICU crowd, we're a little bit different than some other crowds.
Right.
If you have a rowdy crowd like a CAPICU crowd, you have to gain their attention. You know, so you have to present. And it doesn't mean that you got to be Busta Rhymes up in there, but it means that you have to know how to present your work. And I need to see evidence of you being able to present your work before you do that. And how do you do that? I need to see you at other open mics. I need to see you, making the circles. I need to get references from other people that do open mics. Yo, Wordz, this guy came down to Inspired Word. What'd you think of him? Oh, I thought he was dope. Blah blah blah. Yo, Charlie, you saw this guy up in the Bronx. What'd you think? So stuff like that. So that's the first thing.
So artists need to be aware that they never know who's looking and who could pass on a good word for them, the papo. Okay, gotcha.
Listen, my eyes and my ears are everywhere. All right. Second thing is their business sense. I need to know that they have a firm business sense, and what I mean by that is not only because I'm gonna lay it out.
Oh wait, you froze again. You froze. The last thing we heard is I'm gonna lay it out. And
check. You hear me?
Papo.
You hear me?
All right. Last thing we heard was you said I'm gonna lay it out.
Right. So when I lay it out, that's cool because I'm kind of bringing everything to what the terms are to feature at a venue like CAPICU. But what I want to know is that you're not going to show up 20 minutes late. That you're gonna respect the time, and all of this is stuff that other people tell me. I need to know that you're not gonna go overboard in the things that I ask you. If I say, listen, I'm giving you a meal and a drink, I don't want you to bring your posse through, your entourage, and now you think everybody's gonna get a bottle, and things like this happen. So listen. You'll feature that one time, but that'll be the last time you ever feature. You know what I'm saying? So it's all about a respect thing. I respect you respect my business sense, and I respect yours as well. And also, what I would say is that you got to make sure that it's a win-win situation. If I'm gonna book you for a feature, I know that you're gonna bring the pain on that mic, all right? And in turn, I'm gonna try my best to bring you the best and livest audience as possible. You know what I'm saying? And with that, in terms of win-win situations and open mics in general, you need to have a venue that's also respectful of your work. Right. I'm sure Juliet could tell you, doing stuff in other states, there are places that are going to be more open to what you do than some others. In New York City, we're dealing with a bar crowd, so some bars will look at poetry and say, you want poets? You got to give me a $500 bar guarantee. Wow. So what they're telling you with that is you really trust your ability to the crowd.
Yeah.
Right. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, there's a lot of different things, and we've been fortunate in that we've had Evil Olive Pizza Bar and his previous incarnations for a long time. And also, you need to have partnerships in the community. I'll announce as well as Juliet. CAPICU Culture is collaborating with Canvas of Wordz. We're doing partnerships in 2015. So you're going to see a lot of that type of work. So. That to say, as somebody that books features, if somebody like Wendy Angulo, right, that I know goes out there and looks for top tier talent, really co-signs your work, I'm going to pay attention. So
now everyone's going to go hound Wendy now. Inbox.
I know, exactly.
Get me on CAPICU. I heard you got the in. Get me in on it.
And lastly with the artists, I'd say that I just want them to pay it forward. If they come to our show and they had a good time, and they felt that we treated them right, spread the word. Let other artists know. Let your people know. Like, listen, these guys down at CAPICU, they treated me this way or that way. Even if they treated you bad, tell them that too, man. Listen, I'll fess up. Y'all take it on the chin. But I know that I work hard for what I do. And I want the artists to work hard as well.
Awesome. There is a relationship there. That's something one day I'm going to get into. I was going to do a blog on it, but I think now I'm going to do a broadcast on it one day, and hopefully, Papa, I'll be able to get you back on. You have some time in terms of the relationship between producer and artist. And sometimes there are gripes that artists have about producers, which are valid, but sometimes the artists forget that they need to hold up their end of the bargain. It's not just about them and the producer giving them shine. You need to be on point. You need to be on time, all those things. We're starting to run out of time. This hour went by a lot quicker than I thought, but I really quickly wanted to get into the business ethics thing, and there's something again that Boppo touched on. He keeps jumping ahead, but that's when you're a host and you're a dean and all these things. It's the business ethics. So the pet peeves that you have with other artists. So each of you, I'd like you to briefly mention, because I also want to be able to have you guys share something that you wrote, something real quick while we're signing off, right before we sign off. I'd like you to mention a pet peeve that you wish artists were more aware of, something bad that they're doing, and I'd also like you to mention something good that you saw another artist do that you've now taken into your own life and how you carry your business. So we'll start with JP here. Give us one pet peeve and one good trait. Go ahead.
Okay, sure. I would say sometimes, ego. There's a lot of egos that are out there, so that's probably the
Yes.
biggest pet peeve is just kind of, working with egos, which we all learn to do. And what I've seen someone do, well, I think what I saw someone recommend was that even if initially I give honorariums now, but I had someone who recommended even if you can't give an honorarium, give something. There has to be some kind of quid pro quo, whether it be, could be anything. But the point is, something, in exchange for our features. Because ideally, I'd like to be able to pay all the features, but that was sort of a good piece of advice that I received.
Okay, and now, and you said that the pet peeve was not being paid?
No. The pet peeve was really egos. Dealing with kind of dealing
So
with
what you say,
egos.
so producers is make sure that you give them something. Yeah, people are traveling.
Right,
Even in New
right.
York City, that Metro card, or outside
That's
of New York
right.
City, that's that gas money.
That's
Awesome.
right. Those are important. It could be something small, but it's just the point to let that person know, listen, this is what I can offer, and please, for now, hopefully one day I can offer more.
And be honest up front. That's something that I've
Yes.
seen works a lot, and I've tried to tell other people. The thing that's going to upset me is if I'm misled. I'd rather
Right.
someone come to me and say, look, I've got no money. I may pull
Mhm.
5 people tonight,
Right.
but if you're interested, at least because the thing is that even if I say no down the line, I may say yes to something else that they're doing.
Right.
But if you have someone who has misled me and lied, and then I show up and it's not what you say it is, a year from now, 2 years from now, I'm gonna remember that, and I'm gonna call up Wendy Angulo, and Wendy's gonna call up Boppo, and then you're never gonna get down with CAPICU. So people to be aware of all of this.
Holy
So
shit.
so real
So
quick,
there.
Charlie, your
Yeah.
turn. A pet peeve you've seen artists have, and a good trait you saw someone else do that you've inherited, that you've taken on yourself.
Well, I'm gonna flash back to the Hispanic Panic reading series because I think that this question best applies there. Um, One of my pet peeves was artists and performers who it's an extension of the ego comment that Juliet made. They're so into themselves that they don't use the mic correctly. They don't connect with the audience that's there to see them. Either they make it hard to be heard, or they're just so full of themselves that they read longer than they were. If I say read 8 to 10 minutes and you read for 17 minutes, like I'm at the end, I got to the point where I would time them out. But I think that people took advantage of my nice nature and they would sort of trespass those requirements. So definitely that.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a
and I
big
was
pet.
dealing with, like
Yes.
horror writers and fantasy writers and spoken word and everything. So it got messy sometimes. On the good side, I don't remember where I saw this because I like to sort of learn from all the different productions I go to. I'm constantly studying and trying to get better at what I do. But one of the things that I would do when I curated a reading series, if I knew what their work was going to be like, was that I would structure it in a sort of symphonic way. You know, if I knew someone was a soft reader, I would put them second after someone who I knew would start the night off on a bang, and just sort of like alternate the energy so that the flow, you know, you sort of had dips and valleys over the course of the night, and it wasn't just this monotonous or random order of presenters. So that's what I would say.
Great.
Awesome.
I'm mad. I'm mad because Charlie just gave away my secret, man.
I don't know, Pablo. Maybe I got that from you.
Maybe. Maybe.
So, Papo, now I ask you, you had mentioned a couple of your pet peeves. So why don't we just jump into something positive that you've seen another artist or producer do that you have taken on into your own craft, on top of what just Charlie said after stealing your idea?
I was kidding.
No, dude, much love, man. A beautiful thing that I saw one time, I went to a Sneakers and Ale open mic, which is at the time they were doing them in Harlem. And Mental Sins, Tony Watts, he has this thing where he has an interactive component to his open mic.
You froze again, Papo. We froze. The last thing we heard, he says, "Oh, all right, Papo's back." So you were saying that he has this extra component to his open mic. Pick it up from there.
Interactive, right? So if you're an open micer and you hit the stage, he picks a table, and that table is gonna kind of ask you questions about the poem that they just heard. I thought that was really cool, you know, and I haven't been able to implement it as much as I want, but what I tried to do, the times that I have done it, I did it one time with Miriam Slim Rodriguez, where after her feature, I did it with the feature artist. So after her feature, which was incredible, I opened it up to the audience to take a couple of questions, and I thought it lent something really dynamic to the event. It touched my heart, man. It was really some great work.
Awesome.
Nice.
Awesome. So what I'd like to do at this point, once again, ladies and gentlemen who are looking on, if you're just getting into this or the recorded version, please take a look in the description box so you can see who these artists are, who these individuals are, so you can follow up with them. Because we just have a limited amount of time here. We have Charlie Vasquez. Right now we have popping up his Facebook page. It says author. He's there on BronxNet. Make sure you check him out. We also have on Facebook, you can find out all the work that JP is doing with women writers and Bloom Poetry Salon. And right now, Mr. Papo Swiggity's waiting to hear back from Facebook so he could get his Facebook back because they're saying his name's not legitimate. It's legitimate to me. But you can check out CAPICU. CAPICU is on Facebook at CAPICU Poetry. Make sure that you check them out. Also, after you guys do your poems, I want you to plug the things that you have coming up so that for 2015, so people could take a look at that. And someone we've mentioned a couple of times is my manager tonight, as Wendy Angulo from Wendy Angulo Productions. On January 25th at the Bowery Poetry Club, we have the Canvas of Wordz Poetry Tour, which has a bunch of people on our list. Some have featured at CAPICU, and I know some have been involved in one way or another with people from the Bronx Council on the Arts. So definitely check that out. I'll make sure I put a link in the bottom of this description as well. So at this point, what I would like to do is would like each of you to read something that you have, something nice, short and sweet, and after you read it, to let us know what's coming up for those people who are watching this, what you guys have coming up for 2015. So JP, we'll start with you. Do you have something you can share with us?
Sure. I have a poem. I've been participating in Black Poets Speak Out, so this is sort of dedicated to Black Poets Speak Out, an elegy for our brown boys. We bury you, gouged out eye staring back. We remove your hoodie, cut barbed wire from round your neck, place your mangled body on display. Our mothers' wails filled churches and funeral homes, ground swollen with our grief. You, brown boy, looking like a grown man, your teenage laugh swimming down the Tallahatchie River. You let that eye out to wander. You whistled, You pulled a hoodie over your head. You giggled nervously. You looked suspicious. You looked like a grown man. Your handsome smile freeze-framed. This is how we carry you. The tips of our mother's fingers worn, tracing wallet-sized photos. This is how we carry our brown boys. Thank you.
Nice. Nice. J.P. Howard.
Thank you.
Make sure you please go and check her out. And JP, what do you have coming up that people? Because I've been looking in the chat, and I haven't really been able to get to the chat. I'm sorry to those in the chat. I have been watching you guys, and there's some people come up saying, I don't know who JP is, but I like her. And in fact,
cool.
shout out to Urban Hibaro, who I know is looking on and has been promoting this heavily. We appreciate that. He said that he says JP rocks. I don't really know her though. So
Cool.
people want to know who you are. What do you have coming up? And other than Facebook, where can people find you live in the flesh?
Sure. Well, my next salon is Saturday, January 24th. It's going to be a busy weekend. Next day will be Wendy's event. So Saturday, January 24th, Keisha Gay Anderson is going to feature. It's going to be an awesome salon. We're going to write protest poems. So please check us out on Facebook and come to it.
Nice. We're definitely going to promote that. Nice. Okay. Papo, but do you have a poem that you could share with us? And then after you do so, please let us know what you have coming up with CAPICU.
All right. Yeah, man. I miss the block parties of Brownsville, Brooklyn. Yo, do you still keep a dog wrench upstairs to open up the hydrant? Or wire cutters at home to break into the city pools and swim at night? Do y'all still climb the fire escapes to have drinks under the sun and stars on a tall beach roof? A mountain of giant speakers on the streets blaring dancehall reggae, horns and hip-hop, salsa, blacks and brown chatter of the Caribbean that was equal parts Creole, Spanish, and English tongues spouting beautiful language and curses rain down on me till I'm washed anew with super soakers. An explosion of kinetic children across the sidewalks in ripples like firework bursts, engaged in double dutch, tag, balloon fights, laughter, old and young men eating Caribbean sugarcane stalks on concrete, throwing dice and money on the floor. The impending danger of strangers on bikes and men in uniform. Hamburgers on the grills, shared space with jerk chicken and pernil, engulfing our stoops in delicious smoke. Is summer a lost art? I'm Puerto Rican, but I'm black too. I'm Caribbean, but American too. I am too, and so are you.
Nice.
Nice.
Swiggity.
Very nice.
You know, little something.
See, poetry doesn't have to always be laid back and boring.
Nice.
It could be like a concert, and that's what I'm saying.
Right.
You got loud and like a concert. And real quick, a shout out to Mr. Rich Villar, who will be on the next Worded, which is January 18th. He's trying to make fun of me in the chat, saying, boom, Wordz is ignoring the chat room. I apologize to everyone ignoring the chat, but as you see, I have three very interesting individuals here, and I want to make sure that I get the conversation going so that you guys in the chat can enjoy it. So, Papo, thank you for that poem. And real quick, let the people know what does CAPICU have coming up.
All right, next up is this Friday, January 9th, the People's Open Mic in Brooklyn, featuring LaSopa and hosted by Johnny Rose. This is at Evil Olive Pizza Bar in Williamsburg. Thursday, January 15th, we're going to be at the New Yorican Poets Cafe. I'm actually going to share a poem. It's Ronald Haney's event. He does the I Have a Dream speech. MLK's I Have a Dream speech in Spanish. It's something you definitely got to see. And the event is a dedication for, you know, MLK, for Cesar Chavez, and for Roberto Clemente. You know what I'm saying? So that's going to be a dope-ass event, man. And it's going to be featuring a ton of dynamic artists.
Nice. The director of Wordz series, the stuff that I film, I don't want to say too much about it, but we have one of the artists did a piece on Roberto Clemente Walker. That will be out later in January. I don't want to jump ahead. So I'm all with the Roberto Clemente. That's what's up. Papo, thank you so much. And last but not least, we have Mr. Charlie Vasquez. Do you have a short piece that you can share with us?
I have a page. It's very short. Now I couldn't print the edited version. So this version you probably saw me looking down in the last 10 minutes. I was red penning a previous draft that I had already printed. So I'll read from that. But first, it's from a novel that I'm writing. It's a paranormal investigation novel that's set in Old San Juan, in the El Morro Castle Fort. And just for
Nice.
some backstory, yeah, it's turning into quite the monster. But just to give you some backstory, because this is from toward the end of the book when it starts to get really crazy. The main character Dan is he's a detective, and he's investigating this paranormal assault that supposedly happened in the El Morro Fortress, but he doesn't believe in ghosts. So this is the scene where the ghosts in the castle start to let him know that they're there. Okay, and I may stumble because there's like red writing all over this page, but I'm gonna go for it. I haven't read from this yet, so I'm kind of debuting it for you guys.
Now, wait, does this mean that you're publishing it on Well
Oh,
Worded? Is
no.
that what you're saying?
No, I'm
I'm joking. I'm
it's
joking.
not printed. It's not printed.
Oh,
No,
okay,
it's not
okay,
published. It's
okay.
not published. It would be considered a performance, I guess, but no, no. All right, so here we go. Dan turned to look behind him when he felt a rippling sensation of nerves, a beaded chain of chills rush up his spine. He looked up into the darkness of the ramp tunnel, the only way out, and heard the faint tapping of footsteps crossing the tunnel entrance from left to right, softening and fading to silence up above. He shot a warning shot that boomed and echoed up the ramp, as loud as thunder, bright as lightning. Adrenaline charged through his veins, and he staggered over to ascend the stairs. But all he could hear were those footsteps, marching in the darkness to the beat of a moonless night. He lit the lighter and climbed back up to the plaza as the sound of the boom shattered all around him and bounced off the walls. He took the stairs on the right all the way up, and the sound of his laboring breath blocked out any slight rustling that might have been audible at that moment. The plaza was empty and still. That didn't mean anything, though. Someone could be hiding there in the dark. Dan heard the footsteps again, click, clack, coming from the bottom of the ramp this time, where he'd just been, and fired a second shot without even thinking about it, a second cannon-like discharge. He trailed the boom down sideways to pursue the phantom, and reached the bottom without incident, looked around, trying to keep the meager flame lit in the rowdy winds that came off the black Atlantic. So that's a little excerpt from, it's as of yet untitled, but I've been working on more paranormal stuff that's set in Puerto Rico. It's been a lot of fun.
Is
Uh,
this part I saw on your Facebook or social
mm,
media somewhere that you've been working on the novel? This is part. This is
yeah,
from that what you're talking about. You're writing nearly
Oh,
three
yeah,
thousand
it's all I
words a
had to
day.
read. It's all I had printed here, but it's from maybe the second draft or so. I'm on draft
cool.
number 5. So
Nice.
this text has been it's been refined several times. I just did an edit now just to make it, sensible enough. But yeah,
So
I've
we're
been
getting
working.
like an exclusive of an
Yeah.
exclusive.
Yeah, you guys
Nice.
got lucky. But
Nice.
I've been publishing short stories in this style, like little exercises that I've been doing.
Nice.
So I'm working on 2 books at the same time. There's a short story collection and then a full-length novel that are based on paranormal Puerto Rican themes. So, which I seem to know a lot about. So I figured maybe it's time to fictionalize that. But it's been fun. But you wanted me to plug something. I don't have anything coming up.
You have so you have
I have.
nothing. All right, even if it's not in something specific,
Oh,
something that we know you may be doing later on in the year, even if
no.
it's the summer, something for us to be on the
Okay,
lookout for.
there's going to be a bunch. There's going to be another series of workshops. So I'm pretty sure January and February are going to be pretty quiet because we go into grant writing season. Um, if you want to receive, this is the time to get your pens or pencils, people. If you would like to receive if you want to be on the Bronx Writers Center mailing list to receive news about upcoming workshops, etc., I'll be back in the office to work tomorrow. You can email me at Charlie, CHARLIE, at bronxarts.org. That's BRONXARTS.org. Charlie at bronxarts.org. And just say, hey, it's me. Add me to the list, so that way when we do get back into the swing of things, you'll be hearing about that. We have some experimental things coming up but nothing's written in stone yet. So that's the way to find out. The second thing, if you go to the Bronx Arts website or to Amazon, we just published a book called The Bronx Memoir Project. It's basically, in short, it's about 50 stories written by people of the Bronx. I would say 90% of them have never been published before. Writers of all different generations and skill levels, sharing true stories about the Bronx that span way back to World War II.
Wow.
The third thing, if you have an e-reader, I would ask you to maybe go to the Editorial Trance website to see if there's any books there that may be of interest to you. We have everything from a LaSopa biography in English to different poetry books, etc. Definitely check that out. And if you want to learn more about me, you can go to the Facebook page that Eric posted earlier, which I'll be using more this year strictly for my writing and less for the community stuff, because it's all becoming one big thing. So
Yes,
2015
right.
is going to be like, the Charlie Vasquez writer stuff, and then all of the other stuff. But that's what I would say for now.
Awesome.
Great.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
So
Thank you so much.
I want to thank Boppo, JP, and Charlie, because I told them we'd be done by 10, and it is 10:15, and they have been super gracious. So I hope now, for those of you who are watching this live, in another 20 minutes, this will be back on YouTube, the recorded version. So all this information that that you've received today, you're going to get another chance to go over it. You'll be able to pause the video, get the information that we've mentioned, the stuff that I've put up on screen. I know I'm busy here trying to keep things running smoothly, that I'm going to go back and watch it a couple of times, re-listen to the things that you guys do. January 18th, 2014, that's Sunday at 9 p.m. Eastern again. We're going to do our next Well Worded. Right now, we're doing it every other week. We're having Rich Villar. He's definitely on, because January 12th, we have the Director of Word series begins, which is like cinematic poetry. And the first video we're beginning with is going to be Rich Villar's. So we'll go, he's going to be on. I haven't reached out to them yet, but if they're watching, they found out about this. I'm trying to get Caroline Rothstein onto the next live stream. She's awesome. And this young poet, he's 22 years old, named Stephen Willis. So I haven't even reached out to them yet. This is me for the first time saying who I want on to join Rich Villar. And we're going to be discussing writer's block, and we're going to be discussing private versus public in terms of where an artist should be, how they should use their voice, etc., etc. So one last time, whether you're watching this live stream or you're watching the recorded version, in the description are going to be links to each of these artists, except for Boppo, which goes to CAPICU Culture on Facebook, because Facebook's fronting on him right now.
What?
But if you want to get in contact with Boppo, you can go through their Facebook and whatnot. So please hit these individuals up. They're doing a lot of work behind the scenes, and they got a lot of their own work that they're doing. So again, thank you all for being awesome and staying much longer than what I originally asked you for. You're awesome, and I really do hope that each of you guys will be open to coming back on to future shows, especially as I tighten this up and get it so much better. And I so want to be able to learn from each of you. So thank you once again. So everyone watching, peace. Thank you for checking it out. And sure to retweet it, share it with all your friends, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Elevación.
Thank you.